Hello everyone, this is MTF8, and this is Kerbal Space Program, and I have the same old science probe on top of a brand new rocket. And we're going to Eve. So I'm just going over my groupings here. Pretty sure I got all this stuff set up right. Making sure to add SAS units to everything to help it turn around. Always very helpful, those control surfaces. So there's kind of a big view of the rocket. We got a full science contingent up here. Lots of batteries. I always double and triple check my control groupings because they seem to get reset from time to time. I'm not sure why they don't save. I like to set up two different kind of control groups there for science. One control group to do all of them, and then another one just to do the science bay and the goo, because those ones are kind of global. You can do them in outer space and on surfaces, or like planetary bodies, moons and whatnot. So these aren't the biggest engines that you can put on the this size canister, but they do provide a lot more thrust than what we had. And since this probe really isn't all that heavy, they do a pretty good job. The main thing is the interplanetary stage that I have there. That's the majority of the weight that this orbital stage is lifting. So pretty standard. Let's go ahead and get ourselves into an orbit around Kerbin, and then we'll set Eve as our target, and a little bit of an explosion over there. Then we'll set Eve as our target, and hopefully we'll get a rendezvous without too much problem. This thing is a bit of a beast to control when your rockets get really big like this. Get our solar panels out, do a little bit of science just as a check. Get a nice circular orbit at about 100 kilometers, and whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay, where were we? Right, we're going to Eve. There we go. Okay, so a little too far away. What I'm planning on doing is reducing is number one, getting away from Kerbin's sphere of influence, and then hopefully get some kind of a orbit around the sun or Kerbal that is at the same orbital distance as Eve, which I can't remember is like 9.6 kilometers or something like that. Somewhere around there. So here I'm just trying to figure out... Alright, I'm pretty sure I got this right. And it only ends up being about a 1-minute burn with this booster. So that's kind of nice. Nice shot of the moon back there. Oh. It's one of the things with this stage is that I have a docking port between my interplanetary stage and the probe, because what I'm hoping is that I can get to where I'm going and have a little bit of remaining fuel left in the interplanetary stage and actually use it so the probe can, say, maybe visit Eve's moon and get some science then as well. That's the plan, at least. Bye, Kerbin. See you later. Ah, but as I was saying, so for a brief second there, the engines on the probe actually ignite for a second there too, because the way the staging ends up going. Every time I try to separate the staging, it always brings them back together. I'm not quite sure why that is. Could be user error. So this is actually the first time I've been in deep space with any kind of a probe, so the science I'm getting is great. So we go ahead and do a bunch of science here. In high orbit over the sun. So we keep going until we get diminishing returns. Our next maneuver setup here will correct the plane of our orbit to that of Eve. And it's actually a pretty good long burn, considering it's just a plane change, but it is a huge plane. So we get pretty darn close, and then we start looking for some kind of a rendezvous. And unfortunately, the only real rendezvous I can seem to find is one that it takes me almost inside the other planet's orbit. I can't remember which one that is. The Mercury analogs, not Moho. Moho would be Mars. Oh, it's so bad at this. So one of the other problems with having your probe docked like this is you end up burning fuel out of this center tank right away, so you have to disable it. So not the best design for a probe. So since I wasn't able to get a decent rendezvous, I can't remember, what am I doing here? Just waiting for a big long burn here. I'm pretty sure this is the burn that I decide to drop my orbit down really, really close. Figure, what the hey, we got plenty of fuel. And the Kerbal scientists tell us that Eve does have some sort of atmosphere, so we should be able to do some braking in the atmosphere. So yeah, we just sort of normalize or circularize our orbit with Eve instead of trying to do that crazy burn that takes us so close. See, here again, I'm like, ugh, why is it that I cannot get to Eve? So I'm kind of going all over the place here with maneuvers, and again, it seems like the only way I'm going to get a intercept with Eve is if I do this crazy burn like this. So, that's what we commit to. I do a quick calculation, and I'm like, alright, well, we should have some amount of fuel. This is going to take up something like 1,000 units of our fuel to do this burn. But dang it, we want to get to Eve, and we want to get there now. Maybe, just maybe, we can get in close to that other planet, Dre's, I believe it is. We can get in close enough to Dre's to do some more science. So we just do some little tweaking of our orbit here. Nice and close. I mean, it is like another month away before I get there, but time warp to the rescue! So we do a little bit more science, but it's more just high orbit over the sun science, and we already did a lot of that, so our science returns are kind of nil. So before we get to Eve, we take this opportunity to top off all of our RCS tanks in the probe. And since I loaded it up with a whole bunch of little ones, I'm not really sure what I was thinking there. And since I have a whole bunch of little ones, it takes a whole bunch of clicking to load them up. So we'll add a little maneuver node, letting us know how close we're getting to Eve's sphere of influence. And here I'm just looking for Eve. I want to see it coming. But I'm still kind of far away. It's just going to be a little teeny dot. Probably not even rendering on the screen. But here, should be able to see it here. Yeah, there it is, right there. Alright, Eve. I'm coming to get ya. So we need to correct our entry a little bit, because of course once we get within the actual planet's sphere of influence, then we know how our maneuver nodes then become much more accurate. So I'm not quite sure how low we should hit Eve. I know when we hit Kerbin at about 20 kilometers, we will brake completely and come in for a landing, and I certainly don't want to do that. And I know Eve has a thicker atmosphere and a lot more, I mean, altitude-wise as well, above the surface. So I figure this should be pretty good. I set a maneuver node right there on the periapsis, or the apoapsis, I believe, to just sort of give me an indication when I'm passing through the atmosphere to know when you burn or not. It's a neat trick I saw somebody do. So now that we're right above Eve, we're getting all kinds of good science data again. So we go ahead and ship that back home. Still like 250 kilometers up. Oh yeah, I noticed some shimmering, and my game crashes when I apply those settings. And of course when I come back, I do my burn, which coming in at about 80 kilometers is too high. I think it might even been 60 I came in down as low as. Still, not enough, and I had to use both my stages, and so we just have the probe, and we had to use a lot of even the probe's fuel to finish off our orbit. But here we are in orbit around Eve. And so that's awesome. So we're getting a whole bunch of good science out of it. And all in all, that was pretty good. It was a good learning experience. Gonna have to try it again pretty soon. So let's go ahead and see how many points we ended up getting on that one. I believe we started out with 262 science, and hey, look at that! About 1,400, so we gained about 1,200 science on that one. And we've already finished out quite a bit here. And I'm pretty much eyeing up that nuclear symbol right there. Pretty sure I'm going to end up getting those nuclear engines here. Alright, that's going to be it for this episode. Thanks for watching, everyone.